I am going to hand it off to Victoria. And Victoria, take it away.
Hi, everybody. I haven't seen any of your faces except for Eneri, but my name is Victoria, and I know Eneri through church. I met her at Church Alive. When I met her, I was not a business owner. So that'll start my story off. So currently I own my own business, and my business is accounting. So I do multi-service accounting. I do advisory services, all types of services that have to do with accounting and financing and small businesses, and even just individuals. When I met Eneri, I was working at a CPA firm prior to COVID. And at the time, I was just, working a regular 9 to 5. And then during tax season, it was more like 9 to 9. So basically, I worked a lot, right, for someone else. And I always hesitated to kind of start my own business. So just long story short, I did go to school for accounting. I didn't start off by choosing that route, but I feel like God chose it for me, right? In a sense, it was more like I got a job as a secretary. I started to learn everything in accounting, and it just kind of was something I was intrigued to learn more about. So I learned a lot about it. I've been in the field for about 17 years now, right? Since I was 17, I'm 34. So I've been in the field a long time, and I want to say that I was always very hesitant to start my own business. I was unsure of like the financial standpoint, like it's not really assured that I'm going to have like, the means to go ahead and keep doing my own thing, whereas a 9 to 5 is more secure. And it took a leap of faith. Honestly, it took a lot of prayer. It took a lot of me trusting God to like provide, even though I thought it may not be something that I wanted to do, right? And during COVID, I was working from home. My kids were homeschooling. And during that time, I found it very difficult to navigate a 9 to 5, or during that time, it was actually tax season. So a 9 to 9, right? We had to put 55 hours plus during a week. So I found it very difficult to navigate that and also be there for my children present, right? My body was there, but mentally I was not present. So it was a lot to kind of maneuver and try to move around and try to, cope with everything that was going on. And my best friend told me, she said, why don't you just go into business? And I was like, no, wrong time. It's crazy. It's COVID. It's not. And then October came around and I was let go from my job. So I was let go, and immediately I panicked. It was like, oh my goodness, my financial stability is gone. What am I going to do? I panicked. Then I resorted back. I revisited the situation and I was like, God, I trust you. We're going to do this together. I need to know what I have to do. And immediately, like any other person, I tried to apply for another job. So that came around. And then in the interim, I was like, maybe I should own my own business. Maybe I should take this leap of faith. Maybe this is the time for me to do it. And I prayed and prayed and prayed. And for some reason, one day I was in bed. It was really late at night and I couldn't sleep for the life of me. I can't sleep. And I was like, what does it take for me to open up my business? I started researching. I started looking things up. And I had all of the tools in front of me. I had all of the resources. And I told myself, I was like, I'm just going to apply for something that's called an electronic filing identification number, which all tax preparers have to have in order to file taxes, right? So I went online, I did the application, and it said like, it's going to take like 8 to 12 weeks. I was like, but tax season's in January, it's October. So late October, right? So we were always in November. And I was like, this is never going to happen. I was just like underestimating what God can do for me in my life, right? And time came, I ended up getting a call from a job. I took the job. I was like, yeah, sure, I'll start, December 15th. I gave myself some time. December 15th came around. I started the job. And I kid you not, the same day I started the job, I got the letter in the mail for the EFIN number, for the EFIN number. that means I could legitimately start filing on my own under my own name as my own boss with my own entity. And it was just like, okay, I guess this is an awakening. And at the same time, it was like God answering me, like, no, you can actually do this. Like, you don't need a 9 to 5, right? And so again, I had already committed to this job. So I went ahead and I continued to do my job. And at the same time, because a lot of us, like when we start our own thing, it's usually a part-time, right? It's usually on the late hours. It's usually when we have the spare time. So on my free time, I was building something on the side, building my own thing. And again, like loss of sleep because I wasn't sleeping, a lot of dedication, a lot of discipline, right? Because again, it was like I had to stick to a time frame. I didn't have all the time in the world. So that went on. I had this job all the way until June. I had basically a kind of like a review with the partners and whoever my managers were. And at the time, it was middle of COVID. So all of these things, I don't know if you guys are familiar, but there were a lot of like the SBA loans, the PPP loans, all of these things were happening. And so tax preparers and CPAs and accountants, they were like super overwhelmed. It was like the hours were insane. Like I was working day to night. I kid you not, 7 a.m., 3 a.m., I was on the computer. So in breaks and betweens, because obviously my kids were home, but it was like all day long. I was like, oh my God, I can never do this. Like I could never continue to do this. And it was so overwhelming to the point where I felt so bad for my kids because I wasn't available. So I had my review, and at my review, they were like, we need more hours. And I was like, I'm sorry, I can't give you that. And again, like it wasn't an irrational decision, but it took a lot of me thinking about my kids, myself, what my capabilities was, what God has provided me in front of me to actually use to succeed, right? And so I said, I can't really give you any more hours. Like it's a lot of stuff on me already. And I know that's not your fault as a business owner, but it is in my control. And so I said, if I can't, I can only give you what I'm giving you now. And if that's not going to, fit what you need, then I guess I'm sorry, I can't do more than that. And they were like, okay, we understand. We revisited the conversation, ended up being that I ended up just leaving because I could not work more than what they were asking me to do. It was just too much. And again, like Eneri will vouch, she worked for a long time corporate and she knows tax season is crazy. So it's like one of those things where you kind of have to just see what you're capable of. And I was not going to give my life to work and neglect my children, right? And so God had already given me an opportunity, and it was up to me to either continue to seek that or to stand back and just say like, okay, well, I'm just going to stick to what's easy, right? So I ended up just leaving in June. Again, I was working part-time for myself at the time. I had very minimal clients, and I took a leap of faith and I started in June, and lo and behold, like it was just like it was people after people after people calling like, hey, this person referred me to you. They said that you do this and you do that. I worked on my Instagram. I worked on looking for an office space because I didn't want people to come home to my house to like see me. I worked on trying to grow my business virtually as opposed to in person because we were in the middle of COVID. And it all worked out to the point where now I have like a book of clients and everyone is like referral. So it goes back to give like kind of a testimony of what my work is like, right? Because again, I'm a service company. So for me, it's all referrals. It's not really like I'm going out to people door to door saying like, hey, I do taxes. Do you want to trust me? It's more like, hey, this girl is really good at what she does and she helps me in the midst of it. So I think you should use her, right? So, and again, like my passion for all this is not like, oh, I want to do taxes and, do everything that I can to make as much money as possible. My purpose in this, and it's always been this way, what I've learned, I've used to help people. So it's never like I'm seeking financial, monetary, feedback or any type of things like that. Like I'm not looking for something in return. It's more like I know these things and I have these skills. I'm going to use them to help people with what I know. And at the same time, I'm trusting God to sit there and provide for me in any way that he can. Right. And so he's gone above and beyond what I've even expected. Like my goal this year was a certain amount and I've exceeded that goal. And it was just like, okay, well, you do it. Like you really came through for me. And like, it's a testimony of what you're able to accomplish and do with what you know and what tools God has set and, you know, the gifts that he has given you and set forth you. And it's just those things are there. And it just takes that little bit of faith to take that leap and it'll just blow you away, honestly. So all that to say, I have a business now I actually just made 1 year in my office space in January. That also wasn't easy looking for an office. I went through tons of struggles, dealt with difficult people, but I ended up in a Christian building with a Christian landlord who's prayed over my space, prays for me here and there when she comes to see me. And she's amazing. And I've come to that. And, you know, in a year of office space, I'm already at a place where I was able to hire an assistant because I can't do it all myself. And that's one thing. Like at the beginning, yes, we have to do it all ourselves. But once you get to that point where you can't handle it, it's a smart decision to hire somebody because it'll get to that point, right? So I've gotten to a really good place. And honestly, it's not by my strength, but by what God can do for us. And so like, you know, he gives us the tools and it's up to us to use them in a way where we can succeed and give ourselves, you know, that open door to walk through and say like, hey, I actually can do this. You know, it's not impossible. We're all here for a purpose, like Eneri said, and it's just, it takes us a little bit longer sometimes and others just know, but sometimes it does take us a little bit longer, but you know, it's there. Time will pass. It's what you do with your time that matters. So that's about it for me.
Agreed. So good. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, I can definitely vouch for Victoria, seeing her journey and trajectory and, you know, where she started and where she is now. And it's all, you know, about that inner, you know, we have that inner drive. We all have some gifts and talents. It's just getting out of our own way, right? And for her, you know, she had a friend put that bug in her ear, like, yeah, you can do this, right? And but oftentimes I find that we, you know, especially women, feel that imposter syndrome, like oh no, I can't do this. And I'm like, yeah, why not? Like, yes, you can, right? As long as, you know, you're doing your part, you're doing the work, you're researching, you're getting the learning, right? Because it's not going to come to us by osmosis. It's not going to be like, oh, you know, one day I'm going to wake up with all these information and all these giftings. No, we have to do the work, right? But once we start stepping forward in that, then God will definitely show up, right, and bless us. But you know, it's for us to take that step, is I guess is what I'm saying in the beginning. So do we have any questions for Victoria?
I have a ton of like resources because I know most of you guys are seeking to start something or are in the midst of starting it. So I told Eneri, like I held a workshop where I held, I guess, some type of education for small businesses. So I do have some resources for you guys towards the end, or if you have any questions that are relatable even to like starting your own business, I could definitely answer them. Like I said, my passion is to help people, and small businesses like startups are my thing. Like I'm like, no, you have to do this, this, and this to get here. And it's just like, I love it so much. And it brings me so much joy to see people get from point A to point B and not even like in the midst of it be so nervous and be like, I can't do this. And I'm like, no, you can. You really can.
I could vouch for her. She helped me start mine. So any questions, feel free.
I have a question. Thanks for sharing your story, Victoria. It's really great, and to see how God moved in your life. I have two questions. The first then is, I don't recall you specifying the name of your company.
Oh,
and
yeah.
Okay.
Go ahead.
And then the second question is, what kind of advising do you do to other companies, you're saying?
Okay, so I will share a flyer with you guys. So that'll have all the information for my company. It basically has the services. Of course, I can't fit all of my services there, but it has my phone number, the email where you could book your appointment, the address, phone number, all that good stuff. So basically the advisory services that I do are, I do bookkeeping, I do accounting, I do financial advising as far as like getting you set up as far as budgets go, how to keep records of your books, how to keep records of your expenses, the things that you need to look for startups, because usually it's your personal investment, right? It's not like magic just happens. So it's your hard work, your earned money that you're saving to start something. So how to keep track of that. I do provide some of my clients with like these spreadsheets, which I can definitely share with you guys too. It's a spreadsheet. It's like a weekly spreadsheet where you can put in your income and expenses. And then later on at the end of the year, it calculates what you've made in the year. And I also work very closely with a mortgage lender. So a lot of the people that walk through my door are people who want to buy a house now or want to get to that point. So your taxes are a crucial point of that. And so is your credit and what you have saved. And so this person I basically connect with, and he tells me all of the things that they need to fix or they need to do in order to get there. So I have a lot of referrals too. Like I work with a lot of people like payroll people, retirement people. So those things are really good when you work with small businesses because they're definitely going to need that. So that's what I mean by like with advisory services. And then consulting is just pretty much like, there are people who don't know where to go, right? So they're like, I want to start my own business, but I don't know what type of entity, how to do it, when to start it, what to do, how does it fit into my life, how does it fit into my taxes? Because all of that is hand in hand. So I kind of just let them know, like, you know, if you do it this way, this is how it's going to turn out. If you do it that way, this is how it's going to turn out. Or you can start this way and then make it this way later on. So I have all of those things where I can like sit down with someone and we can talk about it. Because like I always say, I say this through all my meetings, like your accountant is your best friend, right? Because at the end of it, you got to let them know what your life is like, because these are life decisions that you're making later on, and they do affect your taxes no matter what. So yeah.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, there's another question on the chat. It says, in order to have an electronic filing number, do you have to have a trademark?
You do not. In order to get an EIN, and the EIN is an employer identification number. That's what it is. And I'm assuming that's what you're referring to, because that's what you need to start your business. So the EIN does not need to be trademarked. The business does not need to be trademarked in order to have an EIN. The only time you trademark is if you don't want anybody else to use your name. And most people do that, like especially restaurants. But again, that's something that lawyers handle, trademarking. You could do it yourself, but you don't want to do it wrong. It only costs like about $100 to submit the application, but you don't want to do it wrong. So you should seek some sort of, you know,
legal counsel.
Advice, yeah, for that, because it's very intricate and you don't want to make any mistakes either.
Makes sense. Thank you. Anyone else? Go ahead, Virginia.
Okay. What was your biggest fear going into this, and how have you overcome it?
Good question.
I feel like my biggest fear was to fail, right? So I was like, what if this doesn't work? Like, what if I do all of this and it doesn't work? What do I resort back to? I felt like it was more of like, not a fear, but like I was scared of it. I don't want to say it was a fear, because at the end of it, I was like, oh, if it doesn't work, then I'll just get another job. But again, it was more like, it was like a leap of faith, because honestly, I was like, if it doesn't work, yes, I can get another job. However, I want it to work because I want to have the flexibility to leave if I need to leave, to go and tend to my children if I need to tend to my children, because it's so hard. And I didn't mention this, but during the time I was a single mom, like completely no one, like my parents are not here. Like I don't really have anybody here. So I was like, oh my goodness, how am I going to do this? Like, how can I keep a 9 to 5? My kids get sick, I have to be home.
Yeah.
Right. And prior to COVID, there was no such thing as like working virtual. That was like unheard of. right? So for me, it was like really hard. And my biggest fear was to fail, right? Because everybody was so unsure of what was going to happen during COVID. So I was like, if I do this and then I can't get a job, what happens? And it took for me to sit there and say, like, but I serve an almighty God. Sorry, you are like literally going against what you believe in. I'm like, come on. So again, like my best friend is like, she's so wise. But she said to me, time is going to pass, right? She's like, whether you're working, going to school, whatever it is that you're doing. She's like, first of all, if you don't have a job right now, you can collect unemployment. She's like, if this fails, she's like, go back to school. She's like, go get another job. She's like, you're not going to be left with nothing, Victoria. Again, I had savings. So for me, it was like, I took that leap of faith, but wisely, right? I had savings. So for me, it was like, okay, well, my savings can hold me up for this long, but then what? And again, I just had to resort back to like, I've been through a lot in my life. So for me, it was always like, I'm a firm believer that God is always going to come through, always, no matter what, right? So for me, it was like, I can't be scared of this because of my flesh. I need to dig into my spirit and actually know the God that I serve and go for it because I know he's going to come through. So that was my biggest fear. And I kid you not, prayer got me through it. Prayer got me through it. My community got me through it. Like, it was hard. It wasn't an easy decision, but it happened. And, you know, it's just where I am now and where my business has gotten me is a testimony to show other women and other entrepreneurs that you can do it. All odds against you, you're still going to make it. It doesn't matter, right? You're still going to make it. You're still going to get through, whether it's self-employed, employed somewhere else, in school, home, you know, a stay-at-home mom, whatever it is, whatever your future is that God has set forth for you, you're going to make it. So the fear is there, but you're going to overcome it. It's just, you have to stay true to what you're believing in, and you have to stay true to what your assignment is. And you have to also be very diligent to do the things that you're supposed to do in order to get there, because you could bring the horse to the water, but he's not going to drink. So as long as we are diligent with our time and what we're doing with our time to get there, it's going to happen.
So good. Thanks, Victoria. And thanks for that question. Anyone else has a question? Joyce.
Hi. Thank you for the invite. I am actually taking my lunch break right now, but I am so glad I did. Thank you both for your message. This is very powerful. I am in transition right now. I took another job, but initially I was scared of change. So right now I am going through my personal self-development, working to embrace change, and Eneri has been very helpful with that. So congratulations on starting your business. It's not easy, I am sure. Now, my inclination is not to start a business, but I am not sure that I will stay at the job where I am right now. I don't fear finding another job because actually another opportunity came by, but I don't want to be changing jobs in less than 3 months. My question is more related to if I want to start thinking about, I don't want to do a 9 to 5. I don't have the desire to start a business right now because my kids are little, but I would like to start thinking about like investments or other ways that I can become an entrepreneur. I have heard of like real estate and other possible investments, but I don't really know where would I need to start from. So do you provide any type of personal financial services?
I do. And it all depends on like where you stand too. Like, what are your tools that you have available to do the things that you want to do? I understand like you don't want to start your own business, and real estate in itself is becoming a business for people, right? So even if you do go into real estate, it's something that you are going to have to take time to do and to kind of continue to work on, because let's just say you have 3 tenants and you get like a rental property. You're still going to have to do your thing as a business owner per se, because it is a business, it's generating income for you. And then you also have to have the startup for like the investment to make, you know, the investment into the property. If it's something other than just real estate, then those are things that you will know because you know yourself what you're capable of doing and what you're able to provide, right? But yeah, a lot of people are leaning towards like real estate. And it all depends, like I said, what you have to work with. I do personal financial advising as well. It just depends on what the picture looks like, right? Your picture, your life.
Right. Yes. So I will look for you on Instagram.
Yeah.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
And she also added a document that has her information, a flyer. So it's on the chat. So feel free to get it from there. I say with just wanted to add with anything that you think of, like, okay, you don't want to start a business, and this is in general for everyone. Take time to ponder it, write down the pros and cons, write down, why you want to do it. There's a famous biblical verse, and I can't think of the quote right now, but it does says, write the vision and make it plain, right? So write down your thought, where you want to go, why you want to do it, because I feel like in anything that you do, it's the reason why you're doing it. So what's the purpose behind it? I find a lot of people do things because, oh, that's the new shiny thing out in the market right now, and everybody's doing it and they're making money. Yeah, but if you're not passionate about that thing,
Right,
it's not going to go as far as you think it should go, right? So make sure that whatever it is, effort that you undertake, that you start writing stuff down and that you start investigating the why behind it. Man, am I really passionate about this? Because if you're passionate about something, doesn't mean it's going to be easy, but it's going to be worth it. You're going to succeed because you're passionate about something. If you're not passionate, your passion is not there. That's why people get frustrated because things are not moving, right? Because there's no passion behind it. If there's no passion, you're not putting in the work. That's just a tidbit, of what I thought of, even for me starting my own business and then hearing others with their ideas and what they want to do. Hey, start writing it down. Make those pros and cons. Figure out what your why is, because your why is going to take you places.
absolutely. Piggyback off of that, like you said, your passion, that is what's going to drive you, because again, you could do it today and then tomorrow you could lose complete interest in it, and then that's it, it's done. But yeah, like I said, my passion isn't taxes. Whose passion is taxes? But my passion is to help people, right? And so my passion behind the reason I do this is because I want to help people succeed. I want to help people, grow and flourish into what they're capable of. So yeah, I agree with that 100%.
Sure. Thank you. Thank you for that. Anyone else? Another question? Come on. I know there's questions. It doesn't necessarily have to be about taxes.
I also put the resources that I said I would into the chat.
Awesome.
Just a document basically with the presentation that I held not too long ago. I think it was last winter. And in there you'll see like, links and stuff like that to different things in there. So if you guys want, you can open it and save it.
Awesome. Thank you.
It was so nice, Eneri.
Oh, no, my pleasure. I love this. I think, as again, it's funny thing is it was birthed out of my own struggles, right? With starting a business. And I mean, I was in corporate for so many years, over 30 years. There's things you learn and you pick up along the way, but it's a different animal when you're trying to start your own thing. And there's a plethora of resources online, which also can be overwhelming, right? And who do you listen to? Because this one has a view and that one has a view, and so you have to kind of sift through it. And then I spoke to some of my friends who may have the idea of starting, but they were just hesitant, right? For some friends and family, and I'm like, wow, but this person has all, like, they're smart, they're go-getters, they know their craft. And I'm like, why aren't they moving forward with it? And many times it's our own confidence, right? Where we're lacking that confidence, and we may need encouragement. So there's something about your tribe, right? A tribe of women that's there that you can speak to, that, will remind you of who you are and whose you are. And that you can do it. In essence, you need like a cheerleader behind you, reminding you that you got this and you can do it. And I thought, why not set kind of this forum, right, for us to help each other just move forward and encourage and remind ourselves that we got this. And those doesn't mean we're going to know everything, right? This we're not perfect, we're not going to know everything. But when you have other women who are going through the same things or similar, or through their story like Victoria's, you can get so much out of it for yourself, right? To be like, wow, she did it, and I can do it too, right?
Yeah.
It just makes it more relatable. It makes it more easier to get out of our own way, right? When we have that encouragement and we see the change in people. Like, I know, like, I've seen Victoria's trajectory and her change and where she is now. And I know she's going to go way further than she could ever think or imagine, right? So, I thought this would definitely be a good thing. And for us to just take a few minutes, get some encouragement, and hey, you need more encouragement? Come in 2 weeks. We'll encourage you some more.
Yeah. Thank you for that. That was amazing.
You're
I'm
welcome.
definitely going to come back in 2 weeks.
Awesome. Awesome. All right. Anybody else? If not, I will give you 15 minutes, well, actually 20, almost 20 minutes back on your day. But feel free to, everyone on this call gets the documentation that Victoria shared. I think, those resources will be definitely very beneficial to you guys, and feel free to pass them on. All right. Well, with that, thank you, ladies, for joining. It was great. Yeah. Feel free to, post it or make a comment. If you joined the call, make a comment wherever you saw it in social media to let others know that you enjoy the call and what it did for you. And I would love to see you guys on our next call. You're very welcome. It's been great having you guys. So see you soon.